Welcome to PUC-Cast. This is a really special episode. We're here with the president of Pacific Union College. I am your co-host, Blake Dillon, and this is my co-host, Alisa. And we're here with President Osborn. We're going to talk about some pretty crazy stuff right now. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's called the Triad. Maybe you've heard about it, maybe you haven't, but if you've lived in Angwin for the past 2 years, you've definitely heard something about it for sure. Either on the road.
Save rural Angwin.
Or
now that's the opposite.
Don't give me that look, I'm sorry.
Or if you work phone-a-thon, you've definitely heard about it. But so I guess basically let's do a quick little background on what Triad is for the newbies out there.
Well, PUC has been trying to build an endowment. And an endowment is where you put a big chunk of money together, and then you use the interest from that to fund various projects on campus. We're thinking a lot of student scholarship money, maybe increase in salaries, those kinds of things. And our goal is to be able to have an endowment big enough that we'll get about $5 to $6 million a year in interest from that endowment.
I can get one of those too.
That's where that started. And so one of our biggest assets is our land. And so over the years, even before I came, the question was how can we maximize this asset for the benefit of the education of the students? So we've had, golf course ideas and four-star resorts and all kinds of things like that.
Grape juice vineyards?
Well, not too far down that. Well, grape juice doesn't produce very much money, so that's why there's not much around here.
Angwin grape juice yet.
Oh. Well, the Howell Mountain wines, I'm told, are the most expensive. So maybe the Howell Mountain grape juice would be the most expensive. So what we've done is we were thinking about, what if we had an eco-village, and it could also be tied into the curriculum of the school, be very cutting edge, looking toward the future of what we know is going to be needed in the future in terms of environmental areas. And so we went out looking for a company. And Triad was one of those that we looked at. So we're right now in the middle of what are called environmental impact reviews that Triad is doing, water and transportation and all of those issues for the county to decide whether the county board of supervisors will approve that project. But it's gotten very complicated, zoning and land use issues and everything, and we've been through some big stuff in the last couple of weeks where the county board of supervisors basically voted to allow us to at least present the project, whereas there was an effort to try to prevent us from even presenting the project after all this money had been spent doing all the environmental impact reviews. So now they're going to let us at least present the project.
So when is that presentation?
It's going to be sometime this year. In the next 2 or 3 months, the environmental impact reviews will be finished, and then it'll get kind of an order for being considered, first of all, by the Planning Commission and then the Board of Supervisors. So
I kind of briefly just spouted out Save Rural Angwin, but can you maybe talk to us a little bit about the opposition? What is the community's take on it, and how is that affecting?
Well, I think the community, is very mixed. I think Save Rural Angwin likes to portray themselves as representing everybody in the community, but I think there are mixed feelings about that. I think there's several things that motivate them. I think one is that they are concerned about having more housing here because they think that'll turn this into a city, and so that's what the rural part is. There's a group that's very devoted to only having vineyards everywhere, especially up in this part of the county. And so I think that's some of them. Then, of course, there's some that are probably what we call NIMBY, not in my backyard, fears about their property values dropping. And so there are probably some in that. So there are a whole variety of different motives for this particular group.
Okay. And the eco-village would incorporate more small businesses as well as single-unit homes? Or, is there going to be some production and stimulation in the town itself? Or
that's been one of our concerns too. We would have a variety of single-family homes, but there would also be a little over 100 of these units that would be a senior housing project. That would be like a basic senior house, multi-story kind of thing.
Okay.
And then part of this has been to really recreate our businesses. Because right now, with our proposal, we would tear down all of the business we have now and move that more over toward where the mall comes down, and so we create a whole kind of a square, kind of a mall deal that would come across. And we would hope to add some more businesses that would help students. Because right now, basically, it's a college market,
Right.
a laundromat, and a teen center, you know, and hardware store. We would hope that we could have a coffee shop, a sandwich shop, some things that would, maybe even a restaurant down the road. Those are things that would help students, you know, not have to run down the hill all the time to get Junie sandwiches or whatever.
Bring Junies up here. Can you imagine?
Wow.
So yeah, we would hope to develop the commercial area to be more interesting for students.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, where? I guess I'm a little confused. Where exactly are you talking about this whole village? Like,
Well, you know where
are the tennis courts going to be there?
the tennis courts would stay, and it basically moved.
Do you play tennis?
No, but people do.
Well, but the tennis courts, even if that was developed, they would be replaced and moved somewhere else. But no, the current location would stay, and it'd be up toward the college market, and then there'd be an area up by the old farm that would be built out, and
Up
then
there, like the old farm, like up
next-
by the airport.
yes, next to the, and so there'd be an area there that would be developed, and so that's kind of the footprint. Then there's a potential area for building some housing over by where the president's house at the bottom of the hill on Las Posadas Road is another designated site.
Okay. Now, it was interesting that you just said the word footprint. Like, that's kind of, from my understanding of Triad, that's kind of what we're trying to work on is our like eco or our green footprint, like helping the community as a whole become more green. Now, I heard that there was like some sort of like garden plan or something.
Yes,
What is that about?
Organic garden that would be gardened by the residents of these houses. And it would be like a cooperative that would be worked together and produce food for them, plus the market, plus the community. Quite a few acres for that. That's one of the ideas.
Classic co-op.
Oh, I was just thinking about your sermon a couple weeks ago regarding just kind of the background of PUC and that it was very self-sustaining, that the students were very much involved in building the buildings, in making and, you know, working the farm and all that kind of stuff. Are we looking at maybe kind of going back to old school, like kind of getting students involved in the actual agricultural part as well?
Well, we're looking at adding maybe a major or two that's new, like environmental studies, which we've already added,
Right.
you know. Floyd Hayes has been helping a lot with that. So, yes, we've been looking at that. But where this all leads, you know, who knows? The old work program when PUC was being founded, like all these old buildings, they were built from trees that were cut down on campus. And the students, you talk to some of the older graduates going back, and they're getting really old now, they talk about, you know, cutting the trees down in a sawmill, and they'd be working 24 hours a day cutting the boards to put up the buildings that you guys go to class in and live in.
Yeah, so kind of having that community of just almost students taking ownership of this area is kind of, I think, a really cool thing that Triad could offer.
And when you talk to those grads, they have this ownership feeling, like, you know, I built that. You really feel that from them.
So what is the projected time span for this
That was
project?
my next question. Like, if we go into a hypothetical world where, say, rural Angwin doesn't get in the way as much, but if you want to, that's okay. I'm unbiased. But
Are you?
anyway, if everything of all of the Legos were stacked together perfectly,
Right.
and all the pieces of the puzzle came together, what's the projected, realistic, boom, Triad gardening?
Well, see, I think most people think about traditional developments where a developer comes in and builds out several thousand houses all at one time. The county would only allow a few to be built every year. So even if we got approval, it'd probably be 2 or 3 years before there'd even be the first house built. And then it'd be probably another 6 or 7 years before everything would be done. Because they would only allow us to build so many houses a year if the project's approved. So it's not like a development, like we have a house down in Arizona, and they built out that whole development, I don't know, hundreds of houses in like 2 years. Just come in, knock out one port, another port. It's not a traditional development. There'd be a limited number of houses that could be put up each year.